We saw protests breaking out in several cities across the country after Friday prayers. In most of the places, it's now under control, and there were just protests following the congregation for Friday prayers. And as the crowds were dispersing, some protested. The situation is under control in most parts. There was violence, however, in Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh. But there you can see in Delhi, outside the Jama Masjid as well, there were some protests on the steps of the Jama Masjid with people holding up placards demanding the arrest of Nupur Sharma, the now suspended spokesperson of the BJP, for her comments and insult to the Prophet Muhammad. Remember, the case against her was only filed yesterday, many days since the incident, since she made those remarks on a television channel. The case, the FIR was filed only yesterday, and then several other people were also named in a second FIR on hate speech. So protests were seen in Lucknow. The situation calmed down in Srinagar. There has been a shutdown in anticipation of trouble. In fact, in several cities in Kashmir, there has been a shutdown in place. In Saharanpur as well, there were protests. You can see those crowds, and the police are also there. So they were anticipating that there would be protests. But in Prayagraj, there has been stone pelting as well. And in Hyderabad, there was a protest near the Charminar after the Friday prayers took place. And in Calcutta as well, in Kolkata and at Howrah, there were protests after Friday prayers. There you can see those visuals from Prayagraj where there was some violence, stone pelting. Again, this is just one part of Prayagraj where there was a protest and people demanding Nupur Sharma's arrest and stone pelting against the cops. The situation now is something we are going to update you on, but these were visuals from earlier. Moradabad also saw protests taking place after Friday prayers, and people taking out a march of sorts and holding up banners, holding up posters. There you can see demanding Nupur Sharma be arrested. Remember, the comments by the former BJP spokesperson have caused quite a diplomatic embarrassment for India as well. This after many Muslim majority countries in the Gulf have condemned the comments by the spokesperson of the country's ruling party. She has since been suspended. Let's go across to Alok Pandey now for more. And Alok, just to go through what all has happened today, while there were protests in several cities after Friday prayers, the situation in control in most of them. However, in Prayagraj, we did see some violence, and it's important to point out there wasn't violence in the other places where there were protests, but in Prayagraj, there was some stone pelting in one of the areas.
I'm really sorry. Yes, you are right. I think at the moment, I have to point out that the situation in Allahabad, in that particular locality, Prayagraj, is still a little volatile. There have been instances of violence or stone pelting, and the police also trying to beat back the protesters still a while ago. Our local reporters were at the spot, and they say that at the moment, what is happening in Allahabad, in that locality, is that the police is there in large numbers, and that at the moment, as of now, there does not appear to be violence happening from where he is, from where our local reporter is, but the situation continues to remain tense, and that is what the situation is.
All right. And this was something, Alok, that the authorities were in a sense anticipating, because as we know, there are, big gatherings for Friday prayers. We saw last week in Kanpur, there were some violent protests, and, after that, there have been several arrests, etc. But this was something the police were in a sense anticipating. We saw there was a lot of security as well in Saharanpur. I think in one of those visuals, we could see the police were with the crowd, moving with them as they were protesting.
I'm sorry, I think there seems to be a disturbance in the phone line. Could you just repeat the question, Gargi?
I was just saying, Alok, that this was something that was expected after Friday prayers, that there would be some protests in many of the cities.
Well, I think you are right, and that is why the police had also made a large number of arrangements, in the sense that in the sensitive areas, there was a lot of police force, and a lot of the community elders had also been spoken with. But despite that, at least in 3 locations, which is Moradabad, Saharanpur, and also Prayagraj, in particular localities, there appears to have been a breach of peace, and that, of course, cannot be denied. And at the same time, to point out again that these were localized clashes. And like I said, the situation is ongoing in Prayagraj as we speak. It's not completely diffused. So we are keeping an eye out on that situation at least. But in the other two areas, you have a situation where now things appear to be normal. And that is what it is. But yes, even in Saharanpur, for instance, the DM there was asked, why something like this happened. And he said that, we had put in a large number of force hoping that things will remain under control. But this appears to have happened. So we'll take stock of that. But I think one thing that you can certainly say is that the administration in each of these areas and elsewhere appears to have ensured that the protests have not spread in a larger scale, isn't it, Gargi? Right? So, for instance, you have situations, that analyze the ongoing situation in Prayagraj. So you have a situation in Prayagraj where, it's happening, of course, and the violence is there on video, so one can't deny it. And stone pelting has taken place, one can't deny it. But again, it has remained restricted to one particular locality or the larger area around it and not spread to a greater area, not spread to a greater area. It's not spread to the entire city, for instance. And that is something that I think you have to also, you also need to give it to the administration and also the community elders who have ensured this.
Sure.
And one hopes that whatever is happening in Prayagraj also gets diffused. But like I said, it's still an ongoing volatile situation there.